Listening Fanfiction presents Hell Hath No Fury Like a Hacker Scorned by Silver Fletcher, based on the cartoon series Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego from Netflix. Read for you by Seraphis. Let it be known that Player was not a vengeful person. He had never held a grudge, never felt the need to get back at someone for anything. He was content to leave everything of that matter up to fate or his friends, and let them decide when or what was worthy of a reaction, while he himself could relax and not let the actions of others get to him. It was a comfortable mindset, and he preferred it. But even the most patient of people had their boundaries, their breaking points, and Player was no different. He was still a teenager after all, a powerful one. That and everyone knew a teenager wronged would do everything in their power to get back the upper hand. Also, they were villains. This was just fair and totally not personal at all. Totally. He was just doing his job. He checked again that Carmen was sound asleep in his bed before turning back to his screen. He could do this, be over and done with, before anyone else woke up and knew a thing. Considering he was just a hacker, there wasn't anything else he could do, a fact that bothered him a bit too much. These people had put his best friend through so much, and he could never do anything to them directly to make up for that. But this he could do, and it would have to be good enough. At first, everything within the academy on the Isle of Vile ran smoothly as ever. Not a single thing out of place. The students went from class to class just like any other day, the faculty keeping idle watch over them while each sort of doing their own thing. No missions underway or planned for the day, and while their previous encounter with their former favorite child had gone awry, at least for the moment, there was nothing she could screw up, considering she hadn't been spotted in a week. No, this was a perfect day for the school's headmasters to relax and work on their personal projects without a care in the world until their next scheme. At least, it was, for a time. The first thing that went wrong was the sprinkler system in the cafeteria at lunchtime. Maybe someone burned something or the smoke detectors were just on the fritz, but either way, 5 angry teachers now had a few dozen drenched and whining teenagers and a cafeteria that looked like it had been hit with a tsunami to deal with. I'm sure that was annoying, but it happens. They just sent the kids off to clean themselves up and the janitors to clean the large room and went back to minding their own business. No school or business, building, or even home was free from the occasional faulty mechanical thing needing to be replaced. They didn't think much of it. Then, only half an hour after that first happened, some of the lights burned out. Or a lot of them. Half the hallways in the school just suddenly went dark, leaving half the students to think some sort of test was going on, and more annoyed teachers telling them to move on with their day while the janitors fixed the lights. Then Dr. Bellum got locked out of her Netflix account. Someone is messing with us, she ended up yelling, shaking her fancy tablet in Dr. Maelstrom's face, to which he just grimaced and pushed the device away. Are you sure you didn't just put your password in wrong too many times again? Countess Cleo was the next to look over with an annoyed expression at the yelling, and add on with, technically, you shouldn't even have that. Your constant videos are a bad influence on our students. You can't take my jobs away from me. The Netflix doctor grumbled back, but did give up on the booked account and went for cat videos instead. Of course, YouTube was now banned on their internet. Both of the other teachers were pretty sure they went deaf at the noise she made then. It only kept going downhill from there. The announcement speakers around the school started buzzing static for a while before playing on repeat a song some of the students explained as being a meme. About 3 repeats in, all of the adults were considering ripping out their own eardrums, and the students weren't far behind. The few high-tech screens all over campus were next, the ones with maps of the school, or classes or grades all suddenly flickered to an extremely cringy and extremely long video montage of a kid narrating their adventures through Minecraft, complete with voice cracks screaming whenever he found a monster, and a lot of really bad jokes repeated a few too many times. Countess Cleo's phone was next. At full volume, at first it sounded as if it was ringing, but it soon turned out to actually be what seemed to be playing a constant advert channel, like paid programming on TV at 5 in the morning, except all it did was loudly play audio commercials for less than savory products, or at least ones the students didn't need to be hearing about. And of course, she couldn't get past the lock screen, which was now rejecting her password or freezing at the time, and she couldn't change the volume. Shadow-san ended up throwing it out the window. Meanwhile, Coach Brent was getting the worst of it. Her phone began pinging off with notifications left and right, almost giving itself a seizure with how often it was buzzing, and she glared at the screen with the most confused expression once it did finally unlock. The hell is Tinder and how to end up on my phone? She demanded, causing Dr. Milestone to choke at his coffee. What notifications is it sending? The burly woman was unimpressed and more than a little uncomfortable as she replied with, "It's all women flirting with me." Who is doing this? Countess Leo finally demanded, turning to Dr. Bellum, who was back on her screens and desperately searching for the break in their security. She grinned unnervingly when she found it. We have a rat in our system. Liar? The hacker boy was so engrossed in what he was doing, his hands flying across the keyboard at max speed, that he hadn't heard Carmen sit up in bed until her voice reached his ears. He reacted instantly, nearly startling out of his chair and spun around to face her with a bit too much of a forced casual air and a face that gave it all away. Hi, Red. What are you doing? She narrowed her eyes at him. I just woke up. What are you doing? Nothing, he squeaked. Truth be told, Player was a horrible liar, especially to someone who knew him as well as she did. Her gaze drew to the screens behind him, a feed of code and a messy scattering of windows he couldn't hide. Ever so carefully, she stood and gave him a sharper look. Player, what are you doing? He was caught red-handed, and he knew it. Tormenting your former family? Baby? He admitted, giving her a sheepish grin that came off as more than glamorous. Carmen gasped. Player, you know how dangerous that is! What if they track you? She made her way to his side, looking over his monitors and then back at him with concern. They won't hesitate to send someone after you. I know that, don't worry, I've been careful. The hacker reassured her, turning his chair back around properly. Here, look, I've got like 6 VPNs running in a loop, and if they manage to bust through those, I've got it to look like I'm located on the island with them. Plus, with their crazy security, they'll believe it because they'll think I have to be there to crack in like this. Carmen blinked. Okay, so you're safe. He nodded. As far as they can see, I'm either their own system or a ghost. I thought you couldn't hack them before, though. You couldn't see my location when I was there. No, and I still can't see where they are or any of their important files or anything. But that's the super secret evil villain stuff. The building itself and their personal phones are a breeze to get into. His friend turned to look back at the screen. So, what are you doing to them? Player grinned. Here, I think I can get a video feed up. His hands flew across the keys again, and after busting through a couple of pop-ups that tried to tell him no, another window joined the other dozen. Unplugging his headset at the same time, the sounds of the faculty's torment suddenly came through the speakers while they could see Shadow-san trying to pitch Coach Brunt's phone out the window. Dr. Bellum was screaming at her screens. Countess Cleo was holding her head like she had a headache, and Dr. Maelstrom was trying to reach the speaker in the corner that was still playing Despacito. Oh my God! Carmen couldn't hold back an amazed laugh. You weren't kidding about tormenting them. What did you think I did before I became a professional hacker? Messing with people was my specialty. She chuckled again at his proud and vaguely smug demeanor before sobering. Player, I do need to ask. Why? He blinked. What? Why are you tormenting them? I mean, it's funny, but it doesn't exactly stop them from being evil or anything. She explained, and Blair looked away. It's just... He fidgeted with his hands, a behavior she'd noticed a lot in her recent time with him. After everything they've done to you, especially that last time, they don't care at all. They act like you're the one that wronged them for not wanting to hurt people. And then Coach Brunt still has the nerve to claim she cares or wants you back, but when she tried to... The hacker's voice was getting increasingly choked up as he tried to explain, his hands gesturing wildly as his words started to fail, and Carmen just lurched forward and hugged him tightly. I didn't know it bothered you so much, player. I thought those were my things to deal with, not yours. He hugged her back, albeit it much more gently, considering her injuries. Of course it bothers me, Red. I care about you. And that's why you feel the need to torment the people who have hurt me? Carmen asked, chuckling slightly as she listened to Dr. Bellum screaming about the red she couldn't find. Yep, he didn't even try to hide it at this point. She smiled and tightened her grip. You're the best. They stayed like that for a moment, appreciating their bond and the fact they had each other in their lives. Carmen was the first to pull away and gave her best friend a devilish grin. Want to know how to really get under Coach Brunt's skin? Player's eyes widened, and then his smug smirk returned to match hers. He gestured invitingly to the keyboard. Please feel free to share. And she did, moving to type out her own karmic retribution under Player's watchful gaze. Back on the island, Coach Brunt's phone had been successfully taken from her and thrown out the window only after she'd managed to send a scathing rant to one of the women hitting on her, and the speakers still hadn't gotten knocked down yet, still playing that blasted song. As such, it was a relief when they suddenly fizzled to static and turned off, and the faculty collectively breathed a sigh of relief. Is that it? Dr. Burnham, did you manage to shut up the rat? I don't know. Everything just stopped. There was another beat of silence. And then at once, the remaining two teachers' phones came to life as well. One started playing a very loud video about gay rights, and the other started playing an audiobook about a very stereotypical cowboy who was supposed to be Texan, but only a few lines in, Coach Brunt started yelling. That's not a Texan accent. That's Georgia, for God's sake. It's different. And then the speakers came back on. And today we're going to discuss why gun control should be enforced. Needless to say, it didn't take long for the rest of the devices to get smashed. Oh, while a certain hacker boy and red thief laughed until they couldn't breathe. End of Hell Hath No Fury Like a Hacker Scorned. If you enjoyed this recording or the content, feel free to leave a comment below or a review at the original story from the link in the descriptions. Thank you for listening.